Hello. Welcome to the medium's table.
What the heck was that?
A punch up, we take it to the car park.
There would be thumping and scratching.
Just fought demons all friggin' night.
So of course I shit myself.
Instant fear.
Just petrified. That energy that first came through was nasty.
While there is no hell,
Smoke is coming out of the ground.
so do evil spirits exist?
This question actually is so loaded.
Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to the medium's table. I'm your host, Michelle Gardner. This podcast is your personal invitation to join me at the intersection of the everyday and the extraordinary. Together, we'll explore the magic of mediumship, share spiritual stories, and connect with fellow mediums on this incredible journey. So grab a seat, pour yourself a cuppa, and come join us at the medium's table, where spirits gather and stories unfold. I'd like to welcome back to the show our amazing panel of mediums. Welcome back, guys.
Hey, good to be
Hi,
back.
everybody. Good afternoon.
Right, hi.
And we have a special guest here today who's going to introduce you to the topic that we're going to speak about. Take it away, sir.
Well, hello. Welcome to the medium's table. Today, our topic is, do evil spirits exist?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Beetlejuice. Thank you. That was amazing. We'll make sure we have you back on the show because you're a natural. So
Didn't see your lips move.
exactly. All right. So that is the topic at hand. And now this is, I'm going to say, and hey, chime in, guys, if you agree or disagree, but I'm going to say this is a pretty big topic in the spiritual world because there is a lot of different beliefs. A lot of people have experienced this, but then again, there's a lot of people that say, no, it's not true, or it's all in your head, or, that's not how it is. Everybody's going to have a different opinion, and I cannot wait to hear everybody's story or opinion here. And I just want to point out that we respect, as much as we're all mediums and we come together, we do not disrespect each other's beliefs. And we respect that where someone is at and what they believe is exactly that. And, it doesn't end up with, a punch up, which is always promising when we get together.
That's just off camera.
Yeah, that happens outside. We take it to the car park. But it is a big question, and it is something that brings a lot of fear to people, especially with movies. And does that fear turn into something else? And that's what we're going to look into a little bit today with stories and opinions. So without further ado, actually, before we get started, I nearly jumped ahead of myself. Let's find out once again, if you haven't watched our previous episodes, I think this is maybe our third or fourth one now, where everybody's from, and just a quick rundown of what you do. So we'll start with English Dawn. We've got two Dawns here. English Dawn. Take it away.
I told you when you weren't looking.
And actually, I'm not English. I'm Scouse.
Okay.
Big difference. So
Google that, people. Google that.
Yeah, Google it. Okay, so I'm Dawn Gallagher. I'm from Liverpool on the Isle of Great Britain. So I'm a medium. I'm a trance medium. I'm also a mentor as well. I teach and all of the above. So yeah, I've been in this life for quite a few decades now. So yeah, I'm wearing well, to be honest.
Fantastic. And thank goodness for that. Dawn with no E from Canada.
Oh, I have the E. Yeah.
Oh, you have the E. Good.
I have the E.
The names are gone off
without.
the names are gone off each window today. Normally they're on there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So now I'm
hi.
the confused one.
It's okay. Sometimes the E gets dropped. But hi, everybody. I am from Ontario, Canada. And I practice Reiki healing and evidential mediumship. And I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dawn. Julie.
Hi, I'm Julie, and I'm from Pennsylvania in the United States. And I do mediumship and tarot reading, and I'm a Reiki master and paranormal investigation. Those are my things.
Fantastic. Excellent. Jeanette.
Good afternoon, and it's great to be here again. Always a lot of fun. I'm from Miami, and by way of California, I'm born in Cuba. I'm a medium, a channeler, and a trance channeler. And my prior life, psychotherapist. And I was very taken by how communication from the other side really helps sometimes with unfinished business and relationships, and the amount of love that is at the end of all of that for people who engage in it. And it's a wonderful new chapter in my life. And I am very excited to see all the things that are in the future for all of us. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jeanette. Christian.
Well, my name's Christian, and I live in the Bronx, New York City, and I am an evidential medium and a trance medium. And I'm also an ordained spiritualist minister. And basically, I do readings for those people who request it. And that's pretty much what I do.
Fantastic. Thank you. And for those listening or viewing, you can go to the podcast episodes and see each one of these mediums sharing their stories. Intriguing, fascinating, and a lot to learn in those stories. Now, let's get started. Dawn, Scouse Dawn, what do you have for us today?
Well, this question actually is so loaded, and I mean really, really loaded. There are so many aspects to it, so it's kind of like not a straightforward yes or no answer. In my experience, so I was raised Catholic, and when I started off in this world, that was one of my first questions, are there evil spirits? And people at that point wouldn't speak about this, as in mediums. And they would just say, you have to protect yourself. That wasn't answering my question. But anyway, and then it got to me thinking, well, why do I have to protect myself? Surely God will keep me safe. Because I do believe in God, but not as some bloke in a blanket, but as an energy. So that was my thinking. So years and years and years go by, and I still had this stance. And then I went to a spiritual college for a week and had the most unreal experience of negativity, I have to say. Can't say it was evil, but I can't say it was good either. So I went to a tree in the grounds of this beautiful old mansion house, and there were 4 benches, and we were all sat on one bench. 4 of us sat on one bench each. And we were talking away, and it was a really calm summer's night. It was absolutely gorgeous. And there was no wind. And then all of a sudden, the benches we were sat on started moving like that. So, of course, I shit myself because I'm not very good at, containing my fear. And I'm going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then the leaves above us, the boughs of the tree that were above us were like this, as if there was like a maelstrom, wind whipping up. There was no wind, but the boughs of the tree were going like this. But then the rest of the tree, which wasn't, where we were sat, was completely calm. So we were like, oh my God. So I immediately turned to religion and go, right, say the Lord's Prayer. I couldn't remember it. Now, I've been saying, the Lord's Prayer since I was day dot, and I could not remember, and nor could anybody else. We couldn't recall. I mean, I remember the first bit, and then I go, oh my God, I don't know what's next. And then somebody else would go, oh, is it this? Anyway, we finally pieced together the Lord's Prayer and started kind of like an incantation, saying it over and over and over again. And then wind dropped or the boughs stopped moving. So I went, oh my God, thank God it's gone. And then this woman went, no, it hasn't. Next minute, she gets pushed and she's pushed against a tree. Anyway, she is a kind of like ghost hunter. And she was like, whatever she was saying, you don't belong here, you have to leave, la, 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 la. So it did go. But I can't say that was evil. But I do know there are spirits who have crossed over who are not nice. They're not nice when they were here. And just because they've died doesn't all of a sudden make them have angel wings or have a halo. And the reason why I know that to be true is I gave a reading to a girl in her 20s, mid-20s, and I brought through her grandfather. It was very nice, very pleasant, telling me stuff about her to give evidence to prove that he was around her. And then he said in my ear, and then I raped her.
Mm.
I went, whoa, and he immediately shut the reading down. And she said to me, he's just told you, hasn't he? And I went, yeah. I said, and I'm telling you now, and this is for all the listeners out there as well, actually, if you do go to a medium and there is somebody you do not want to communicate with, or you do not want them to attempt communication with you, you tell the medium at the start of the reading, I do not want this person to come through. Because this person obviously was still trying to control his granddaughter from beyond the grave. Now, is that evil? It's not a demon, but he's certainly not a nice spirit. Still got unresolved issues himself. I don't know. For me, it was disgusting.
Yeah.
Absolutely disgusting. But was it evil? I'm loath to say I've not had experience of it because I don't want experience of it if it is true. But I haven't had experience of evil per se. I try to engage in positive thinking all the time. And I don't watch scary movies because my mind automatically creates all kinds of horrors. And I don't think it's healthy for the mind. Don't get me wrong, I used to watch them when I was younger. And I used to read, horror books. But now I just can't, attempt is the wrong word. I can't allow my brain to engage or my mind to engage in stuff like that because my focus is on purity, on positivity, and to try to kind of engage in that with people who are around me and people who I work with, to help them have a positive outlook because our teachings are a bit one-sided, I have to say. In England, they're a bit one-sided. We're not taught about negativity in the sense of evil spirits, because as you said rightly at the beginning, there are some who say that it doesn't exist. So why did I experience that negativity in that place? And you know what? And I actually think I know the reason why. Because I needed to know that it did exist.
Yeah.
Because I was questioning it all the time. Well, but God will protect me, wouldn't he? But like I say, God isn't some bloke in a blanket. It's energy for me. So, and the only energy I want to put out there or I want to receive is positive, pure energy.
Yeah. That's interesting. And you've given, a couple of examples there, which is really great And I'm sure the listeners have questions around that and will after every single one of you have told your stories. And I encourage people, please put questions in the comments and these mediums can go back and answer them. Please do that because this is how we learn. Yeah, this is how we learn. This is how, we get educated on or hear another person's version or belief or opinion on why, how, when, it's important. It's important. So, yeah, thank you for that, Dawn. Can I ask a quick question, Dawn, before we move on? So there may be people who would ask, why did you shut the reading down when the grandfather said that?
Because, quite frankly, anybody who's in spirit does not control anybody who is alive, and nor should they be allowed to control anybody. And what I heard from him and what I felt from him was pure and utter hatred.
Okay. Thank you.
That's why I shut it down. And, this girl needed to be protected and should not be subjected again to his control. Absolutely not. So that's why I say to people out there who are listening, if there's anybody in your life that you do not wish to attempt to communicate through a medium, you tell them before the reading.
Thank you for explaining that. And that's important to know that, you always acted in the best interest of the sitter or the client.
Absolutely, yeah. 100%. Because, God, it was such a shocker for me because I'd never experienced anything like that before. But as a woman first and foremost, and as a mum, my immediate action was to protect, the girl I was with. So I'm just saying to everybody, you have a voice. Just because you go to a medium does not mean to say the medium is in control of the reading completely. You are the guide. So if you have somebody you don't wish to communicate with, inform the medium, please. Don't think you can't. You must. Because you're in control of that reading. You're setting the foundation for a loving mediumship reading, not a reading where some vile piece comes back into your life after they're dead.
Yeah. Thank you, Dawn.
So that's why.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And that's great advice for those that are thinking about getting a reading. That's probably a great thing to look for in a medium. If you're looking for a medium, to that caring aspect.
Yeah, and integrity as well, because as humans, we're there to protect each other, and that should go in all walks of life. And if there are, God, and I hesitate when I know I'm not hesitating. If there are charlatans out there, they feed on people's fear and misunderstanding of what mediumship is. And they will, I've seen adverts for some mediums who say, I can lift a curse off you. I'm sorry, people, if you see anything like that, run for the hills. Do not touch that person. There's no such thing as curses. And there's no such thing as somebody who can say, I can lift a curse from you.
Yeah.
The only negative in your life is what you put out there yourself by your own negative thoughts. The negativity that surrounds you. You might think, oh my God, my life is crap. My life is crap. My life is crap. And the universe listens to that. And what it does, it's giving you exactly what you're asking for. Your life is crap. So that's why, going back to the original question, I only put out positivity. In my head, the minute my mind starts to kind of like switch to, oh God, I feel crap today, I switch it off. And I'm like, you know what? I've got an amazing family. I've got amazing kids. I've got beautiful friends. My life is amazing. You start saying that to yourself enough, And all that you will attract is positivity.
The shift happens.
Yeah, it does. Proof of that, I lived a negative life for many, many decades and no longer will allow negativity into my life. So evil or negativity, I don't know, is the answer to that one. I've not experienced it, nor do I want to experience it if it is true.
Yeah. Thank
But
you, Dawn.
negativity is true. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Dawn with an E.
Hi. I resonated so much with what you said, Dawn, as far as what I allow into my brain, horror movies and stuff like that. None of that. My imagination is too vivid. Now, as far as I had a couple of different experiences that I possibly could say was negative entities. Like the number one, like the very first one I had talked about in my interview with the Ouija board. And that did scare the crap out of me. I heard footsteps and chains rattling, and being 14, I got pretty scared. So, of course, I didn't play around with that again. Now, when I first started with Reiki, really started to take my spiritual path a little more seriously. I worked at the local store in the little town I live in, and I knew this woman who just lived outside of town, and she committed suicide. And I didn't know her very well. And the lady who was my Reiki master, she lived in this town also at the time. And the day before this woman killed herself, Sherry had come into the store and she says, "Oh, I went by this house just down the road there, and I just felt like something really bad." And I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird. Like, I know the lady who lives there. And the very next day I found out that she had committed suicide. And I called Sherry and I said, "I can tell you why you felt that negative energy. This woman just, took her own life." And she's like, "Holy smokes," So we had a little chat. So a couple of nights later, I was, going to sleep and in the in-between there. And I saw her, the woman who had died, and she was sobbing uncontrollably. And she was leaning against, and I don't know what this was. Like, it was almost like, the Beauty and the Beast, the Beast. And that was sort of the outline, like big, hairy, was holding her as this woman was sobbing. And I was like, oh. And then it turned its head towards me and looked at me, instant fear. And I just backed right out of the whole scene. I was like, what the heck was that? And to this day,
you felt fear.
Yeah, it scared me. Just the look in this being's eyes was like, mind your own business and get out of here. And and to this day, I don't have an explanation for it. And I just, I prayed for her, and that was all I could really do at that point, of course. So that was very profound. But now, going on, like throughout my spiritual journey, I've had dreams here and there, probably maybe 6 to 8 of them. And I'm fending off wild animals. And it's like, it could be wolves, sometimes bears, sometimes big cats, and I'm fighting them and I'm holding them back like their jaws. And it's like I'm fighting them all night long, and they'll keep coming at me. And in the morning, like I'll say to my husband, I felt like I just fought demons all friggin' night. So yeah, I don't know what that's all about either. And actually, I had one probably a month ago. So it's just something that happens. I don't know. Maybe I'm letting my vibration level down, and this is a reaction to it. But at this point, like I meditate every day, and just try to keep my vibration high. And like Dawn said, not subjecting myself to anything but positive happiness, going through my life, with happiness in my heart. Yeah. So the negative aspect of things, I think, definitely is there. And it's just a matter of, protecting yourself with higher vibration, and that is the vibration of love. So
yeah, thank you, Dawn. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And some people believe that when we sleep, we revisit or we visit the spirit, the spirit realms. We go off and we work or we journey, with our spirit guides and so on and so forth. I mean, that's a whole nother subject and topic, and then that poses the question, when we sleep, do we go off and do interdimensional work?
Right.
Where in some aspect, and this is just, a theory, could you be going out there and literally be on a plane where you're fighting these creatures? I'm just, again, this is an open topic of what could be, what might be. Again, listeners, viewers, please feel free to, put your comments below, or if you've got questions for each medium as they tell their story, feel free to ask, because this is how we learn. So
thank you. And
Dawn.
what's funny about this, just one last note, what's funny about this whole thing is I didn't even remember about the dreams of fighting off the animals until we were actually on the podcast. And I went, oh yeah, like that's definitely something so that just came right in, specifically for this podcast. So
needed to be shared. It will resonate with other listeners out there. Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Dawn. Thank you.
Thank you.
Julie. Yes. Hi. I too have been taught that they don't exist. I have, however, experienced them firsthand. When I was just maybe 11, I had a visitation in my sleep, which I think I spoke about on the last panel, maybe, where a demon that's well known and documented in the Catholic Church. I am not Catholic. I had no idea what was happening. Assaulted me in my sleep. And I was an innocent. I didn't know any of these things. I fought it off. I pulled on some kind of knowledge I didn't know where it came from to end them. And then I never had any encounter with like that again. In fact, my next encounter was meeting an angel face to face. And pure light, pure beauty, pure love and comfort. So I have to say, both things exist. And just from my experience in that way. And as I went through training, I agreed that no, it's your vibration. And I don't buy all that either, because I don't think that it is, it's not the vulnerability of the human in front of you who chose for that to happen. They are vulnerable, and the energies that are looking for vulnerabilities will take advantage of it, or whatever it is that they are looking for. Dawn described the fear she felt as a Reiki practitioner looking this thing in the face, right? So if at her vibration, it's able to bring her to fear with her knowledge, then that's what it's intending to do. And that's what it wants, is the fear. It feeds off of the fear. Other beings may feed off of sadness, keeping you depressed, keeping you low, and just like I've spent many, many years as a psychotherapist myself, and, no emotions are bad. What you feel is what you feel. And just feeling it and letting it go actually is how to stay with a high vibration, right? Because it's natural to have all these things, and you don't know what joy and happiness are unless you've had the other side. Also, I know of no really developed spiritual beings who have not experienced a dark night of the soul, because that's how you get there, and that's how you realize that you're more than just human, more than just this package, right? You are just infinite. And in the infinity, you're going through all the phases, all the facets, all of that. So I don't have an answer as to what these beings are. I know that what I have seen, they feed on, whatever that thing is that we're saying is negative. I've seen that they can be inherited. So a perpetrator of sexual abuse can pass them on to their victims. And the victim may respond by self-harming, like the depression side, or they may also become perpetrators themselves. When you speak to them, the human with this being somewhere influencing them, they sometimes are able to articulate that there is something there that they cannot sort it out, even when they're being accountable for their own behavior and owning their own behavior. There's something they can't make sense of. And I can tell you that I had an experience where I had a very negative spiritual experience that was very personal, and I had an attachment, and it does influence you. And I was doing Reiki at the time I got it. So,
Wow.
But it was a vulnerable moment, and I had in my home, and I didn't believe any of these things could happen, but then I was dumped right into them. In my home, I had tenants renting upstairs, the apartment, and they were young, like in their 20s, and they went to a place in Pennsylvania called Centralia, which is an old coal vein that's just burning for the next until the end of time, right? The land has sunken down. The town has been abandoned, except for like a handful of people who refuse to leave. When you drive through there, smoke is coming out of the ground. It smells. Now, most people will tell you Centralia is not haunted. I haven't actually been there. I have zero desire to go there. I think it is all those negative lower energies that we're all talking about. It is like the epitome of that, my feeling of it. Anyway, these people went to visit there, and they felt like something was following them. And one of them felt pulled off the path, which is dangerous because you can fall through the ground, right? It's burning. It's literally, like scary, right? So I do believe things like places like that will attract those energies because they're attracting people who want to be scared, and leave the fear there. So these young people brought a rock home with them. Okay. So one of the first rules of ghost hunting is don't take anything ever. Right. You know, so they brought a rock home with them, and then things in my house started to happen. The woman who brought the rock home got very ill, and my daughter, my older daughter, brought her into the basement, which is where my room was. And she said, the girl who was sick said, "What does your mom do in here?" Well, Mom works with angels. That's what mom does. So that vibration down there was really very high. My walls are granite. My house is made out of granite. So the stone holds all of that light, all that light was sucked out of my space. I started having shadow figures in my laundry room, like something was watching me. Upstairs where they lived, where she kept the rock, there would be thumping and scratching and stuff, and these beings or whatever it was that they brought with them, it would influence them and their thoughts. So they were paranoid. They were just having thoughts that were not their own. And that's what I've come to understand is what the darkness is, and it can be very subtle. Like if you're feeling depressed, you probably have a legitimate reason to feel depressed, and you may have thoughts that are depressing. And you should know if they're your own or not. I think it's normal to have your own thoughts that are depressing. It's when there are thoughts that are maybe not yours, or in a voice that maybe doesn't sound like you, So the girl ended up trying to harm herself and, had to go to the hospital and be hospitalized. And they moved out thinking, okay, we'll just escape it. Well, you're not going to escape it because you brought it here. It's not staying at my house. You're taking your rock. So I told them, the rock has to go. Of course, you have to take it back to where it came from. I have no idea if they're still bothered by it or not, and I don't feel like it was just one thing. It was like a lot of odd, negative things that I ended up cleaning out of my house for months, and by cleaning out, I mean saging and Reikiing and, sea salt in the water. I do believe we pick up things from other people. So the more you practice things like Reiki or massage or, psychotherapy, the more you practice those things, the more vulnerable you are to picking things up that you're not aware of. And there's something called spiritual hygiene, which is a practice of simply, just like you clean your body, cleaning your energy. And it's not all in your head. Everything's not all in your head all the time. So those are some of my experiences, but yeah, I'm a believer that there's something out there, some things out there that choose to influence us and towards negativity or towards being fearful or whatever it is that they want to feed off of.
Yeah, wow. That's incredible. And that's good sound advice and some tips that you gave there on what you do to clear a space. That's really, really helpful to a lot of people who may be experiencing something. I do have a question at the end of this, but I want to hear everybody's stories and thoughts, beliefs first around this. But at the end, I have a question for everyone that I would really love for you guys to answer. But thank you so much for that, Julie. That was that's fascinating. Again, with taking objects that can have, things or I don't know, dimensions. Who knows? Who really knows? Attached to them.
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess part of it is like, I don't really need to know. I just know what I experienced. So,
yeah.
And I know I don't want to experience it again, just like Dawn doesn't really want to look in that thing's face again. Right. Like,
yeah. Yeah. Best to learn the first time, not a second or a third.
Right. Let's not do that.
Yeah, exactly. Smile and wave.
That's it. Oh, thank you so much, Julie. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeanette.
Wow. These topics, one leads you to another, and go on forever. So I'm going to share a couple of stories and then also do a little bit of review of the logical part, which we've been discussing already. The idea of fear, the idea of control through fear. But very much like Julie, at around 10 years of age, I had my first experience of something I have no idea what it was. We moved from California to Miami, beautiful sunshine. We got a dog, a pool. As a kid, I was really happy. Didn't need a whole lot. Gorgeous room I shared with my sister, 2 little princess canopy beds and big window to look outside. But I remember very early on when I walked into that room, as soon as I passed the threshold, there was a heaviness. And I didn't know, and I would not have had this vocabulary back then, other than as soon as I walked into my room, all my hair stood on end and I was just petrified. I was just so scared. And there was nothing there. Again, beautiful, bright yellow canopies. It was like a little princess room, and tons of light. But the sensation was so palatable. It was so physical to me and so scary. And I had a knowingness, is what I call this, that the whole intention of whatever entity was there was to create that and elicit that emotion in me. My stomach was very upset, so I was having a response to this. Of course, as a kid, you don't tell your parents really any of this stuff. And there was already too much happening in a family of 7. So it just came to me one night to just start praying. And I did remember it. So I would just pray every night. And I could feel the pressure around me as I laid in that bed where I could sense that there was something there that was negative, that was maybe angry. It was horrible. So I did this every night. I think I might have been like in 2nd grade or something like that. When I came home one day from school, I'll never forget this. It was so many years ago, God. I passed that threshold, and it was as if all of the furniture had been cleared out of the room. It was gone. It was amazing to me. I remember just stood there thinking, where is it? Because it had been there for so long. This went on for several months. My sister who shared the room with me, I didn't even tell her because I didn't want to then get her started and get her imagination started, which is a big deal, because I know that we can, with our imagination, create emotion, create things that do not really exist. But again, with Julie, it's like I went in there, tabla rasa, clear slate, looking for happiness. We were in Florida. We were super excited, ocean, pools, all year round. And when I walked into that room, so for me, my takeaway as the years went by is I did not create that. It was as real as those canopy beds, to me. And then it was just gone. So life went on. The next episode of something like this happening, I was maybe in my early 20s. My boyfriend at the time, his father was dying of cancer, and the family was doing everything. They shipped him to Mexico to have some kind of blood thing. They were just really wanting the dad to stay around. We were in a hotel, I don't know, some weekend somewhere, and I'm woken up by a sensation, again, same feeling of like a lot of people being in the room, pressure. So I wake up, and it was, again, I couldn't see it physically, but I could sense it, which was just as strong for me. I felt like the bed that we were in was surrounded by individuals that I did not know, spirits that had passed, people had passed, and they were just volatile. They were just really angry. My sense, it wasn't like a verbal download, which is what I'll get today from spirits, but it was, they need to let him go. That it was, and I woke him up, I go, you guys just need to let your dad pass, because I'm not going to continue to, every time I lie down somewhere, have this happen. He's like, what's going on? I explained it all to him. He had an idea of some of the things that already happened to me in my life. And, and I started praying again, and they dissipated. Obviously went to bed with the lights on, the TV on, and they left, but it was incredibly real to me. Fast forward a little bit more. We're at a honeymoon now in a beautiful castle up in Canada. Anyway, and I sensed something, but far off. It was huge, cathedral ceiling. It was something off in a corner. But the emotional vibration that I received from it was not negative. It was kind of prankster-like, and it was all about energy. It was kind of feeding off of the honeymoon energy that we had going on. And so I did a little pact. He was a baron, he told me. I said, like, I don't really care. You're kind of a creeper. What are you doing in our room? But you're there in a corner. I don't see you. I'm just going to forget about you because you're not going to mess with my honeymoon. And that was it. I could sense that he was there, but at a far distance. So, and again, I was in honeymoon mode, finished with all the theatricals of the wedding, all the stress is gone. I can actually eat again, which was amazing. So I was just in total happy mode. I was not there to create. I was not ghost hunting. I wasn't looking for anything cool. I just wanted to have a great time, do some skiing and enjoy the beginning of our life together. So again, when I look at some of the logical explanations that are out there, and a good part of them is, number one, if you can truly create fear in human beings, and through that fear, many different institutions can then control. It's the best way to control a group of people, through fear. And then you have the social situation where somebody, and they have a lot of these, I think, on TikTok or YouTube, where I react like I'm scared. And original Dawn, would be in the room with me. She would probably react too, not even knowing what the hell I was doing. People prank each other like this. I don't know if anybody has seen it. Check it out. It's really fun. And so it's almost like a contagious thing with humans. You react to someone's reaction of their fear. And it can just escalate and grow and take over society and take over a world. And everyone knows we've been controlled through centuries by fear. Mm. So I look at all this logically. I'm like, yeah, that makes a point. And if I'm creating it and I'm thinking about it and I'm watching a scary movie, then there's like a little sound. I'm going to jump. But I go back to experiences that I've had that I know to be true. I cannot empirically validate and have any evidence other than my own takeaway and my historical feelings with them. Then in doing mediumship the last few years, I had a situation where I was doing a reading, and with me, sometimes the spirits will get a little closer and start talking through me. So the spirit got a little closer, but immediately I could feel the anger, the hostility just coming in hot and not from a good place, not there to connect lovingly. And I just did a reaction like this, and immediately those spirit guides that were bringing and facilitating this said, you change your energy and you align it with what the purpose and the intention is here in this, or you're gone. So and this is another thing, I just could feel it. And then there was like a shift, and I'm like, okay, it was almost like a different entity or a different spirit. This was interesting because I actually got to find out everything that was happening. The individual came to visit with an aunt that had passed. Never knew anything about this. And the one that came through was the mom. And kind of like what one of you were saying, go ahead and ask and say, I don't want this person. That's the last individual they wanted to see, because he wasn't allowed to grow up with the family, because I don't know what situation there was with the mom and him. She didn't want to have anything to do with him. So he ended up living and was raised by the aunt. So when I said, oh, this is your mom, he's like, oh, no, yeah, I wanted my aunt, not my mom. Like, get rid of her, bring the other one through. Long story short, the mom starts to go into really explaining what her issue had been her entire life with this individual. She was a hopeful classic pianist, and that's what she wanted to do with her life. Got married, started having children, and that went, out the window. This individual became a very famous singer. So her whole thing was jealousy. She was so jealous, and that's also a very low negative vibration, okay, that she kind of hated him. And as a mom, I'm feeling this and hearing her talk to me, and I'm telling him, your mom was jealous. He's like, no, that's impossible. Meanwhile, the individual is there with a partner, and the partner says, I never understood why she had that with him, but she was great to me. And he says, I thought it was due to my gender preference and that was her issue. However, she adored my partner. So I could never really understand. So it took, after the whole medium session with the mom, we sit again for another 35 or 40 minutes and kind of work through whatever is not understood by whoever I'm working with. The aunt then at the very end came through and she said, she could not come to you alone because of the conflict that is still existing between their two energies. So I brought her to you. And I brought her to you because this is who you needed to connect with to resolve all of this. There was a lot of crying, a lot of tissues. So there was a resolution to all of that. But getting back to what we're talking about, that energy that first came through was nasty, super nasty, because she came in the way she had presented in life. Angry, jealous, feels like her thunder had been stolen by him. It was a really very classical example of therapy working with mediumship and having that type of response. But the energy that spirits bring can be negative. Or it can be frightening. I rent houses like in the mountains. Every summer we try and go get a little mountain high, and I've had things happen there where I'll see in a mirror. I was putting on makeup and I'm in the mirror, and I had in that house like kind of a feeling I knew something wrong had happened in that area. And oddly enough, there were no birds ever singing there. It was just a really weird. Everybody was talking about it. And I'm putting on makeup, I'm looking at the mirror, and I see this kind of like dressed in pilgrim attire, 14 or 15-year-old girl kind of run. There was a sliding glass door behind me, and there was an outdoor patio. And she's looking behind her, horrified. And then, she pauses, looks back, looks at me, and keeps running. And I'm like, what? And then there was this tall, thin man, who looked like he was truly out of his mind, like a rabid dog chasing her. And then I just got the whole download that he had eliminated her and her mom there in that area, not in that house, but within that land that we were in. And that's a whole other show for you. Do they linger? Why are they still here? Or was that an energy source that I was seeing? But I think each individual will have their experiences in life. I do know that if there is no light, dark and light kind of coexist, right? So if we're in the darkness, then that is when the light shines the brightest and it illuminates everything. And I do believe whether it's the actual verbiage of the prayers or where we're connecting, I think, with our heart center, and we're connecting with a very positive level of, just radiating light when you do that kind of prayer, where darkness cannot exist. If you amp up all the light in your room, the darkness will dissipate. And and I think that this is something that philosophers, and I know that there's one incredible channel out there. I think it's Daryl Anka who brings in Bashar. He had something in October, you can look it up, about demons and do they exist? And he gets into the whole thing about it just being our creativity, calling that energy or creating that energy and then continuing to amp it up. So logically, I hear this stuff. I'm like, yeah, makes total sense. I agree. And then I think, no, wait a minute. This experience. Nope, can't totally buy it. I can't totally buy it. Particularly the one, like Julie said, when you're that young, I had no idea what a Ouija board is. I didn't know any of this stuff. And yet I know that happened. But I also believe that each and every one of us have light that we bring into this world that protects us. And they say, call on your guardian angels and call them to intercede and help, which kind of like what Don was saying, I just assume God is going to like take care and protect. But if you look historically at wars and the Holocaust, what was happening there. So I don't have all of the answers. And I think the more things I find out, the more questions I have, many of which also do not have answers. So go by your own experience. Know that there is an energy source within you, within your own spirit that protects you. Call upon that to protect you and amp it up. It's the best I got.
That's great examples, Jeanette, and a good explanation, from a different standpoint. And I think that's what's important is we've each experienced something different. And you don't have to agree with everyone. You, again, based on your own experience told you, no, this is what I truly believe because I've experienced it because A, B, C, D. And I think that's really important is to look within yourself sometimes for the answer. But it is still important to reach out to other people and hear their experiences and to know that you're not alone in this journey when these things happen.
Most definitely.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeanette. Christian, what do you have for us?
Well, getting back to the question, do evil spirits exist? I believe that they do not exist, but I also believe that every spirit at some point in their development has acted in an evil way. Whether it's probably not in the current incarnation for any of us, but in our past existences, I'm sure all of us have been in that negative thought wave of energy. And it gets down to what is evil. Fear is the absence of love. Hate is angry love. Hate occurs when the natural loving response that we expect doesn't occur. But fear is something entirely different. Fear is the, I don't want to say destruction of love, but the repelling force of love. And evil occurs when there's enough thought forms or enough energy in that fear state, that it is impossible for an entity to act with love because they are immersed in that, they are surrounded by that negative energy. And that gets to the concept of thought forms. Every thought generated, be it a loving thought, not so loving thought, creates a thought form, and those go out in waves. And negative thought, all thought forms collect with their like thought forms. And it's one of the reasons why, when you go into a Broadway theater, all the energy is up and the audience is waiting and they're getting excited, and because there's all this positive stuff going on. And it's also why if you work in a prison, you're probably running into a lot of negative thought forms on a daily basis. And it can bring you down, and you need a lot more positive, loving energy in you and surrounding you and broadcasting out from you to repel that stuff and look at things in a more clear way. Evil thought forms exist. They exist on bridges, where a bunch of people have jumped off and committed suicide. They exist in, the remnants of war zones, be it the Civil War and, all those places, around Gettysburg, where psychics, pick up on, those negative things. But consciousness, entities who've had, lives and passed on and want to communicate from the other world, none of those are inherently evil, but we are all on our evolutionary journey as spirits. As with everything else, with thought forms, when we pass on to the spirit world, we're not all mixed together. We segregate into levels of where our vibration is and where our unconditional love is, and all of that. So while there is no hell per se, there is definitely a vibrational place for those who are more negative, and the more positive they get, the higher they go, and basically the surrounding spirits that you are surrounded by changes and it is at a higher level. Now, I've given more than a few readings where spirits have come through who've done evil things to people. And usually, in fact, I can't think of a time when this has not happened in my experience. It doesn't mean it can't happen. But usually that happens because that spirit is stuck. Okay, that spirit is stuck because it needs forgiveness of the person it's coming to see. And in order to get that forgiveness, it has to remind that person what it did that it needs forgiveness for. And it needs forgiveness from that person because it cannot forgive itself until it has forgiveness from that person. And because it can't forgive itself, it can't move anywhere. So it could be in that state, that vibrational level, for 1,000 years, and that person could go through several reincarnations, okay, because the hurt was so bad. I mean, the target or the victim, okay, could go through several incarnations before that soul gets to the point where, the victimizer soul can go to them and have to remind them what they did several incarnations ago and ask forgiveness, that individual is then able to forgive that perpetrating soul. So the structure of the metaphysical universe is such that nobody ever gets away with anything. Everything there is a karmic response to everything. And yes, grace will help you move through your karma far more easily than no grace at all. But everyone still has to go through it. So do evil spirits exist? No, but evil does exist, and evil thought forms exist. And those energies can be amped up and can be self-promoting and self-fulfilling. And we see that with the problems in the world today, with the wars in Ukraine and the wars in Palestine and other areas, around the world. So, the key thing is we have to, on a daily basis, and I haven't been good about this for the past few months, to cleanse ourselves, bless ourselves, and call in, our guides to bring us as close to that state of joy every day, every moment of the day, even when negative things are encountered in the day. And I just, I have to bring up Ouija boards. Okay, because people were talking about Ouija boards earlier. A Ouija board is a tool. Bless your tools. Imbue your tools with positive, loving energy. Okay, ask the guardians of your tools, your spirit guides, whoever works with you, to respect your tools and only allow them to bring through positive, loving energies. It really is that simple, because, but they are tools. They can be used properly or they can be used improperly. That's really it.
Yeah, that's great advice, Christian. Really great advice. Because just on the topic of the Ouija board, a lot of people see the Ouija board as dark, evil. It just brings in, all sorts of ungodly demons, but it's not the case. Exactly like you say, if it's used properly and it's blessed and it's, you care for your tools, can be used in a completely different way for a completely different experience.
You care for your Ouija board the same way you care for your tarot cards.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think with the Ouija boards, they're really sort of directed at young people. And it's, it's something.
You could blame Milton Bradley.
Yeah. And so I think that it is a forbidden adventure, that's sort of how I was at 14, And so you're not experienced or smart enough to cleanse that tool,
Yeah.
Just looking to get into trouble. It was like,
that's it. Yeah.
What do they call it?
We were skipping school and everything.
Sleepover must, you have a Ouija board happening, you steal somebody's bra, freeze it in the refrigerator, pour water on it, whatever. Yeah. Just,
we've never heard of that one. Thanks for all the great advice there, Jeanette.
So the poor girl wakes up, and everybody's got their bra except hers is frozen, and no one wants that. Also popular when you go away to college, the Ouija board, camping trips when there's way more, booze than food. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you wonder why those kinds of entities come through and create all kinds of havoc. Yeah.
Yeah. Clearly I grew up in the wrong decade.
Don't make out you're that young.
Rocked.
I think sleepovers today are on Zoom, right? Is that how that happens today? I see my niece like this all the time. I don't really know what her face looks like because I just see the back of her phone. I know what the new case is. That's it. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. But thank you, Christian. You gave some really great examples and something to really think about. And again, based on your experience. And that's all we have to go on is our own experience for every single one of us. So the big question that I have for you guys is, if someone's listening to this, or when people are listening to this podcast, and they feel like they've experienced or they're in the middle of experiencing something like this, what should they do if they feel like they've played with a Ouija board and they shouldn't have, or they just feel like there's something around them, or they're hearing things in their house? What should they do? Who should they contact? And this is going to be the big question. And again, I invite people by all means to put your questions, in the comment section. What should people do? What would your advice be?
For me, I think personally, it's first and foremost, you need to recognize. We were talking about thoughts in our minds, whether it's our thoughts or something else's thoughts. I think the first thing to do is to recognize where your voice in your mind resides. So when we talk to ourselves in our head, we can hear or we can sense where our voice is coming from. So for me, if I talk to myself in my mind, my voice is here on the top of my head. But when I speak to my spirit guides and kind of like hear their voice, it comes from the side of my head. When I go into trance channeling, it's from the left-hand side of my head. So what I would say to people first and foremost is to say something in your head that you are saying. So say something like Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. Distinguish where your voice is. Now, if the voices that are in your head that you think are not quite yours, if they are coming from a different area in your mind, then I would say you absolutely have an attachment. And going back to the story that I gave earlier, what I failed to say was, from that experience in that spiritual college, I actually took an attachment home with me, and it stayed with me for 4 months. And what I did was, a friend of mine, a very, very good medium, she gave me weekly healing. Her and her spirit team gave me healing. I would just sit there, but I was hearing horrible thoughts, which I knew were not mine. charity adverts would come on the TV, and I'd hear in my head, whatever it was, swearing at the images on the TV because I was ignoring it. And the more I ignored it, the worse it got. So I went to a medium and she gave me healing on a weekly basis until we finally got rid of it. So that's what I would recommend. See a really, really good medium, get recommendations, not a quack, not a charlatan, but a good spiritual medium, not a psychic, who has experience or knows somebody who has experience of helping people get rid of darker energies.
Thank you. Anyone else got any recommendations? What would people do?
I want everyone to remember that the light will always win, right? So when you're in that space and you're hearing those swear words at the TV, and you have a knowledge it's not you, the light will win. You have to raise your vibration, all the things we talked about in the beginning. And it has to be consistent. You have to make a consistent effort to do that. Your authority, however, supersedes everything, and you have to learn to believe that. So if there's something in your home, you tell it to leave, just like you would someone who was a person who was not welcome. That said, you might have to do it several times. You might have to get the sage out and do the things because you want to make it uncomfortable. Just like you have a neighbor who's too noisy or something like that. You want to make it uncomfortable for them to be there. You want to raise your vibration, the vibration of the building, and if you're in a vulnerable state, you may not be able to do that yourself. You might not be able to think about it yourself. You might just feel so confused or overwhelmed by the situation. And then, you should reach out for help. But I do believe that in the experiences that I've had, and I facilitated the vulnerable person, having the experience to do it themselves, that has been a healing for them. And helps it to make sense to me as to why these things happen, is to see the spirit triumph and overcome, and for them to find their voice.
Would you know of like cleaners? Are there medium cleaners? Where they come to kind of like what you're saying, to help people. Sure. And a lot of the movies that we have seen, I can't remember the name of the film now, but they collect all of these different objects, and each object, I do love the scary movies. I keep watching them. What can I tell you? Each object is, has some demonic.
House for movie
night. And then of course the kid opens up the door, and then the whole world goes to hell in a handbasket. But I think there are actual individuals, I have no knowledge of that, who or what, but are there mediums that, do you know, Christian, that specialize in this kind of stuff?
Well,
to help you clean stuff out?
House cleaning, getting rid of negative energies and I know of people who've done that. I've actually done it for people. I haven't done it in years, but I've done that. But I don't know anybody who specializes in that.
I do space cleanings. I do house cleanings. When there's an investigation, you have to find where it is. Like you talked, there are some objects. It could be attached to the person. It could be attached to the home. Many Reiki masters do space clearing. So, yep, they're out there. A lot of energy practitioners do that. It's just doing it on a different space.
And so are they upfront with it? Because Dawn and we were talking also that, like, I know when I started doing this, I would say, well, what about, nasty spirits coming in? Oh, no, we don't talk about them. I'm like, beep me right now. Like, well, you're telling me how to do all this. You're not saying, oh, don't worry, Jeanette. There's nothing like that. That's Hollywood. You're saying, we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah,
no, you have to.
And when you start looking at mediums and you go to their page, they have like a list of a million different things. I feel like I'm at a spa, and at the end, I don't do anything because I don't know which massage I want because there's so many. But do they list that? And would it be listed like somebody who's really trying to research and find this? What do you say then? I'm a channeler, I'm a cleaner. I mean, how is it
I would
How-
put space clearing on my
space clearing?
page. That's what I would put. I don't know
So get in
what other
touch with Julie if you need any
might-
clearances.
I don't know what other people might put.
House blessing and
House
clearing.
blessing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
No,
would
you have
people
to-
Google paranormal investigator, Julie, if it was to do with the house?
Well, they might if they think it is the house and they want it to be investigated and then taken care of.
Okay.
Right.
Because who
Well,
were the famous people that did that in the movies The Conjuring? Lorraine
Oh,
That's the movie.
Warren. The Warrens.
Warrens,
Warrens, yeah, they were big into
Yep.
that. Big into that.
And like speaking about attachments, not every medium sees attachments. I understand what my experience has been is that having had an attachment, I now see them. I don't know that I had no idea they were there before, right? I've seen lots of weird things before that happened, but not the attachments. And now I do see them. So I don't know how you would, if you think you have an attachment, that's a question then to ask your medium if they have experience with those.
Yeah.
Or with
And if
something
not,
like that. If you feel like something has followed you,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
I had an experience in the summertime. I was visiting a family member and I was staying in the cabin. And when I was going to sleep, it seemed like these spirits were kind of popping in. There was several of them. And I felt uncomfortable. And so I said, like, spirit guides, can you just get rid of this for me? And it was like they were sucked right out of there. And I was like, oh, thank you.
Yes.
So I really feel that if you call on your spirit guides, your guardian angel, your higher power, that will go a long way into helping you. And of course, contact a medium to help you as well. Yeah, a reputable medium.
Yeah.
Can I just say something, what Julie said? So for the last few months, so when I had that attachment, I was very, very new to this. So I didn't know how to get rid of it. I didn't know what it was, all that kind of stuff. So obviously I've been doing this for a long time now. And for the last few months, something's been following me upstairs. I could feel it behind me. And, you know, I've told you guys it scared the friggin' life out of me. But I had enough one night because, you know, I stay up quite late and, you know, I'm doing stuff online and whatever. And I'm climbing up the stairs. The house is in darkness apart from the light that I'm turning on. And it was getting so close to me. So I just swung round, told it to F off and said, you do not belong here. And it was gone.
Nice.
Finding your strength and your power.
Yeah.
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 It's funny that we don't realize it. I took a class maybe 4 years ago and she was just, you know, trying to teach us how to connect with spirit. And what ended up happening, she chose me and whatever, and I'm standing there and it started to go beyond just, you know, presenting itself. And it felt like it was coming in to me to speak through me, which had happened to me before. And I never knew what the hell it was. And no offense, Brit, but she was British. And so I'm kind of like moving away and the spirit's coming in. And this lady all of a sudden's like, and I looked at her and I go, wait, we can do that? She goes, oh yeah, you just tell them to get lost. I'm like, bloody hell. Yeah, so tell them to hit the road. Might not always work, okay? But I didn't know that you could do that. And then afterwards, I was just perplexed at how it never occurred to me, because if it were a human being, I'd tell them where to go real fast. Why not do the same thing with the energy that's presenting itself in front of you?
Yeah.
And ask for help,
Absolutely.
you know, like Don.
And I think that the fear overrides initially. If you don't know what these things are, initially you're driven by fear. You're like, oh my God. And then all the Hollywood film stories come out, the Warrens and the demons and this, that, and all of those overriding thoughts cripple you with fear. And like you say, if it's a human, you would tell them to,
Exactly.
F off.
Wouldn't cross my.
Fear of the unknown sometimes is greater. So, yeah, absolutely. Everybody, who's listening, you tell them they do not belong and to get out of your energy and get out of your house.
Yeah.
You have a voice.
It's funny you guys say that, because in the past when people have sort of said that, I feel like there's something in my house. And I said, well, if a stranger walked into your house and was just lingering around, what would you say to them?
Yeah.
Oh, you'd be, going leather for hell. Get the out of here, and don't you ever.
Yeah.
I said, what's the difference? Same. Do the same. Same difference. It's your house. It's your space. They don't belong there. Get out.
Yeah.
So I think that's really great advice, everyone. We've heard some really great stories today. Some really sound wisdom and knowledge has come out of this. And I think this is a must for many, many people around the world to listen to, because at some point in time, I can guarantee you most people have felt, seen, heard, or strange things happening. And this is really educational. I feel that this podcast has been really educational and will be for so many people. And I love the diversity in belief. Like I said, your experiences is phenomenal. It's just, I love this. This is so educational for people. And I think that's the big thing is we fear what we don't understand, or we fear what we lack a little bit of education in. Don't let movies educate you on this subject, because that's not where you're going to get the most sound advice.
Just like a couple things. And that is, the higher your own personal vibration is, the more that these negative energies will be repelled away from you naturally, that you will not run into it. But also, the best way, everyone should be familiar and practice raising their vibration and bringing themselves into a state of joy, Abraham Hicks style. And that's good if you're having like a blasé day or a not great day, but it's especially important if you run into negative energies that you want to repel immediately. Because yes, you tell them to get lost, but you should also be in the habit of immediately after going into that default mode of thinking that is going to raise your vibration immediately into a state of joy, whatever that is, whatever that go-to feeling is. But everybody should have a go-to feeling with a go-to technique to take them immediately there.
Yeah. That's
meaning not focus on what you've just experienced,
right.
To dismiss it from your mind and get back to your normal positive person.
And it could be as simple as going back to a memory where you had fun and laughter. It could be a joke someone told you, where immediately music, exactly. Where the simple little easy things that you can,
in my case.
There you go. But to raise your vibration, simple little easy things.
I'm going to go biblical a little bit, because Jesus basically told people to turn the other cheek. What Jesus meant by that metaphysically was ignore the negative and look to the positive.
Yeah. Thank you, Christian. And again, each little pieces of advice will resonate to someone out there, and they're little, just nuggets of gold, really. It's awesome.
Hear, other people's experience as well.
Yeah. And again, we invite people to put, your experiences, or if you've got questions in the comments for the mediums. That's, this is, again, a great way to get answers and a great way to be educated. Now, below in the description and in the show notes, I will have each medium's previous episode where you can go back and see all their wonderful stories and their other experiences, and also where you can contact each one of these amazing mediums. I want to thank you so much, guys, for joining me again today. This has been amazing, educational, and you have given so much out there to the world. And for that, I thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll see you soon again on another episode of The Medium's Table.
Thanks for joining me at The Medium's Table. The universe is always speaking. Listen and let your spirit soar. Curious for more? Click on one of the videos below and remember to subscribe.